Alright, welcome back everybody. Let's look at the sequel here to one we looked at last time called Slave Pits of the Undercity. So once the characters get through the slave pits, which is in a previous module A1, they actually found a map that leads them to this area A2. Now what this is all about is a group of slavers. They've got different regions, different areas, different forts and underground areas and so on down the line. So they're going from one to the next through this four-part series. So here's the second one right here. They tell you this is for levels 4 to 7. Well, you better have at least 8 to 10 people if they're going to be level 4 and at least 6 to 8 if they're going to be level 7, because this is a pretty tough one right here. So here's a little picture of something they might see on the inside. Here's some slavers. Okay, a little guy creeping around right here. They're going to tell you what these little fellas are further along right here. But there you can see her holding back this fighter like she might be some type of ranger rogue. Who knows what's going on there. So this was published all the way back in '81. And TSR, as you probably know, was the company who owned Dungeons & Dragons at the time. Here on the back cover, here's an individual, a monster called a cloaker. This thing likes to wrap around people like a big old rug and bite them and beat them with their spiked tail all at the same time. So interesting little creature there. Here you can see the modules that have been released up to this point. And here's the A1, the slave pits of the Undercity that we looked at last time. So here on the inside of A2, they give you this background information. Just in case you didn't play A1, Slave Pits of the Undercity, they give you a little background so you know what's going on here. So this would be something good to read, even if it's just a little refresher. So background, the coastal lands of the Sea of looks like Gernot have long been raided by the ruthless slave lords, traders in human misery. After years of argument, the sovereigns of the area finally decided to take action against them. A band of fearless adventurers was gathered and sent to investigate the slavers' base in the decayed city of Highport. So this right here looked like an abandoned region, mostly on top. There was an old city there that had largely been burnt, but the slavers had taken it over and had the slave pits underneath it. So that was what happened right before this one here. The slavers were discovered to be operating out of a ruined temple dedicated to the orcish god Grumsh. After defeating the orcs, the implacable adventurers discovered a secret trapdoor leading to the sewers beneath the temple. There they found the dreaded slave pits, guarded not only by orcs and ogres, but also by creatures more foul, including the horrible insect men. These are some interesting little creatures here. After all these were beaten, the adventurers encountered and defeated one of the slave lords. So there was a slave lord leading this slave pits area in the previous module, and there's another one, a wizard fighter elf, which is found in this one here. We'll see her further along. So there was one managing the operation in Highport. There'll be another one here. As a result of their victory, the party obtained records of slaver activities and a map of their caravan route. So that brings them to this region. The map has led the party inland from Highport to an old fort lost in the midst of, looks like, Draken's Grab Hills. Supposedly this stockade is used as a way station by humanoid caravan merchants who dare risk travel across these perilous lands. The party's map, however, indicates that the fort is really a front for the slavers and that it's being used as a processing and fattening house for newly acquired slaves. The information agrees with that received from a slave who escaped from the stockade. The slaves are brought in with the mock caravans, but they are never seen to leave. To help fulfill their mission, the player characters decide to investigate the old fort. So here's the old fort, and this thing is very well guarded in all ways. Notice as there's a ditch runs all the way around the entire thing. Anybody gets through the ditch, there's a tall earthen rampart behind it, and then there's the walls of the stockade, and they are guarded all the way around. You can see there's even some second and third and fourth floors in some of the smaller regions. So how the characters are going to get into this thing is going to be the first big trick. They obviously are going to have to do it at night, or they're going to have to travel invisible, something such as that right there. But let's say they decide to come right on in the front door, right? So looking in these areas up here, there's lots of multiple floors around this region and such. They give you some little smaller maps off to the side. And right here at the front, there's a drawbridge tunnel. Now, the bridge is raised, right? There's a winch room off here to the side with a guard in it, so maybe somebody can get in there and maybe let it down quietly. Maybe they get over this wall some way. Again, it's going to be very tough to get into this place. So if they do get in, say, through the drawbridge here, there's a little outer courtyard. In this area, you can see this little muddy circle, and there's an ant egg buried in the ground just waiting to attack someone. And they're really looking to cause noise and set off alarms, too. Once an alarm has been set off in this place, these guards are really going to be on high alert. If the party comes in once and they retreat and come back, it's going to be even tougher. But let's say somehow they get into this area quietly. Somehow dispatch this ant egg quietly too. If they travel through area 6 right here, as long as an alarm hasn't been set off, they'd be okay. But if an alarm has been set off, there are going to be guards waiting to pour flaming oil into this narrow passageway. So somebody's going to get burned big time if that happens right there. Right off to the side are there's some stables filled with horses, other animals, and a few guards are in this region right here too. But if they make it into this area here, these are grounds for the troops where they run their drills. So they'll be doing whatever practice, probably here during the day, nighttime, they wouldn't. Now, guards can fire down on anybody crossing this area, right? You got guards all over the place, right? They're always on watch right here. They'll mention some rooms, some of them not so much, but for the most part, they're on pretty good watch out. Again, if there's been an alert sounded, or if the characters have been here before, they're really going to be watching at all times. So this is a bit of a killing grounds trying to get across this troop drill region. Down here, sort of towards the center of this big fort, there's an inner courtyard. There's a fountain and some trees and lots of little shrubs and things such as that. In this area, they're going to encounter 12 hobgoblins and 4 carnivorous apes. So one heck of a melee could break out in this area right here. Off to the side, we see these 16 numbered rooms right here. There's one at the bottom that's a collapsed room full of vipers. So they could run in some snakes in this area here. But off to the side, there's storeroom, armory, bedroom, dining room, kitchen, things such as that. Not a whole lot going on. And something else to mention about this map, what you see sort of in the blue shade was used as a tournament area. They mention how the tournament can be played with certain characters scoring certain points towards the end. We'll look at that too. But notice there's a lot of extra stuff added if you're just running it as a campaign. So you can run it both ways. Run as the tournament, see how they score, and then run it wide with all the areas after that. Be pretty fun. So on from there, if we look over at region 17 right here, when characters enter this area, they're going to see what looks like a grizzly bear charging them. It's actually just a stuffed bear on his hind legs. There's a little wheeled platform underneath him that pulls him along, and he's going to try and knock him into a pit. So that's really funny. Somebody set that up right there. And all this little region right here where you got the 18 numbered rooms. This is the East Wing Guard Complex. There's a storeroom, latrine, officers' quarters, recreation room, bunk room, and they'll find 6 or so hobgoblins in these areas right here. Down here below the old fake grizzly bear in room 19, this is what they call the mirror corridor. As a party enters this area, 3 hobgoblins disguised as mummies are going to rush to attack. Now, I don't know what a hobgoblin dressed as a mummy looks like, but it sounds like it might be just a little bit comical. There's also going to be 7 hobgoblins join in too, so it could be quite a battle in this area here. Get down a little bit lower through some of these rooms in here. These are hobgoblin barracks and a storeroom. And down here you can see a stairway leads down to a well. Notice how that well actually leads outside the ditch, but I don't guess there's any way the characters could possibly know it was there. And even if they did, how in the world would they dig down to this well and enter without anybody seeing? Looks like it'd be just about impossible. So over here to the side, this 35 is a kitchen area. And in this big kitchen area, one of the things they're going to encounter is this creature, Icar. He is a fort commander. He's actually a 7th level fighter. He is second in command only to Marquesa, who is one of the slavers that we'll see down on the lower dungeon level. So this guy, Icar, right here, is going to be a tough little battle. Along with him, there's 6 hobgoblins and 3 wereboars in this area too. So a lot of fighting is going to happen here, most likely. But something they'll find in this region on a table that's very important, make sure they see it, is a letter. This letter will talk about slaves being sent to someone, and it gives detailed directions. What that letter is doing is giving detailed directions to the third adventure in this series. That third one is called Assault on the Area of the Slave Lords. So we'll look at that one further along on another day. All right, so that leads us from 35. Could be a lot happening right there. And all these other rooms right off here to the side, there's servants' quarters, cook's quarters, werebears' quarters. Again, they encountered them in region 35 right here. And over in 39, off to the side, this is the leader, that gentleman named Icar. These are his quarters. So they'll mention in here, he's got some interesting little things set up in his quarters. He actually has in a closet right down here a medusa chained to the wall that's guarding his treasures. So that's pretty funny they'd come across that right there. Down here at the bottom, you look at this region 25. What this is a set of raised platforms and steps, and there are dozens of slaves just sitting here motionless. Even though they're chained to the walls and such, they don't really move or do anything. And the reason being, there's a creature here called a cloaker. We saw him on one of the previous pictures here earlier. It's on the back cover of this module. He produces a droning noise that actually produces a hypnotic effect. So they're all just sort of sitting there staring. Looks like they're just looking off into nowhere. But over here in the commander's quarters and off here to the side, there's a couple of possible passageways leading down to the dungeon level, right? So here's all the key that goes with that little map right there. And they're most likely to come down these stairs right here. But again, in the commander's room, there was another little passageway leading down. But let's say they start off right here. So as they come down these stairs, you can see there's a good bit of them leading down in this region. There's a little secret guard room with 12 goblins waiting in this area. Generally what they do, they'll take weapons from anybody venturing into this area. They're going to attack these characters if something doesn't look right all at the same time. Past them is a little entry hall that's lit up with lamps. And what's funny about this hallway is at the end of it right here is a giant magnet. So any of the characters in the party that have on, say, plate armor, anything that has a large iron content in it, they're going to get drawn down here and stuck to the wall. Somebody has something like a sword in a scabbard, it's going to stick straight out towards that magnet. So that's hilarious. Somehow they're able to find a magnet that's big enough and powerful enough to actually take individuals in armor and just stick them to the wall. Right here in 3, there's a little abandoned guard room, not much to it right there. And then this little hallway here, the characters will see some type of little white shape hanging from the ceiling. There'll be lots of cobwebs. So if they got any sense, they're going to figure out there's spiders here. And there are 2 giant spiders in this region. Here's a couple of storerooms off to the side. Nothing significant about it right there. But once they get past the spiders, you can see there's a little secret door. But they're probably going to turn to the right here. Now once they turn to the right, leading down this hallway, initially it looks fine. Everything looks okay, but you can see right here with this X, there's a pit trap. So there's a secret door off to the side, and then a pit trap that drops 20 feet. There's actually very narrow ledges on either side of it where individuals could walk. So if a rogue or somebody detects the presence of this trap, they can't actually walk around it, above it, or below it. At the end of the hall is also a second trap that has a lot of falling logs, so they've really got this place trapped up well. Once they make it past these 2 traps, they're going to head north. And notice how it looks sort of odd right here. This entire area, the floor, is just a grill work of 1 foot by 1 foot spaces. Maybe that was supposed to be an inch. It said 1 by 1. I bet they're supposed to be 1-inch spaces, sort of like a metal grill. Now this metal grill is also covered with what looks like a black slippery fluid. And what this is the lair of these creatures called boggles. They're going to look at them at the end of the module, right along with a few others that were introduced into this one right here. But these boggle creatures secrete some type of liquid, and it's very slippery. So if a melee fight breaks out in here, the characters are actually going to have to make dexterity checks to see if they slip down on this material. And these boggles actually have a spider climb ability. They're going to be immune to it. So they're going to have a big advantage if they're fighting on this steel grate. And you can bet that's what they're going to want to do. Those boggles also have a special ability to dimension door. So if things go wrong, they're going to try to dimension door away fast as they can. So up here at the top, there's some storerooms and such. Not a whole lot going on up in here, but then to get around to area 12, this is a torture chamber. In this torture chamber, there'll be 16 goblins, a couple of bugbears, a rabid wolf, and even some warg dens. So this could be another big combat area. If the players aren't careful, everybody might die in this region here. There's a couple of secret doors that leads over here to area 13, which is a storeroom for an alchemist. So they might find a few little things in that area. They search for secret doors, they might. But down here, notice there's another one leads this area 14 that has a natural chasm in it. Seems like they always run into natural caverns, doesn't it, whenever they go to digging below ground. Here at 15, this is pretty funny. This is the cheese curing room. Not sure why somebody felt the need to throw that in, but they did. 16 right here has some beehives in it. And they tell you that as somebody enters this door, a bucket of syrup is going to fall on their head, and then the bees are going to attack. So that's a pretty funny little unique trap that you find there. On around to 17 is the beekeeper storage area. Nothing significant there. But here you can see they've got a bit of a long straight passageway. Down here at the end of it is a goblin that has a little control lever, and what he can do is drop a net on top of the party. So some or all of the party could be trapped in this net. There's a little roll they have to make to see if they are or not. And if they do, an alarm is going to be set off, and there's going to be a whole lot of enemies. There's going to be 11 goblins come running from this area C right here. Now off to the side over here, this is non-tournament area. Again, it's sorted in just the white floor instead of the blue shaded like this right here. There are some warg kennels. But coming back on up this region here, there's a warg watch post. So they're going to be watching out right in here. Again, it's amazing all the traps and sentries and guards that they have set up. Area 22 is Marquessa's lab. Now this is a lab for the slaver that controls this entire area right here. She's actually a wizard fighter, has 5 levels in each, so she's got 10 total. So she's relatively tough and smart here. Her lab this is a lab where she tries to create what she calls the perfect slaves. Now what she does is actually torture and disfigure them. Most all of her little so-called experiments in this chaotic evil elf don't go well. She has occasionally got a few little nice experiments I'm going to mention further along, but most of these individuals now live over in what's called this caves region. They're just insane, disfigured individuals. So we'll see those a little bit further along. Over in 23, there's a big mess hall, and right below it here is a kitchen. Not a lot going on right there. Up here at 25, we got living quarters for goblins, engineers, alchemists, bugbears, and scribes. There's even a few werewolves and an ogre mage found in this area. Now, if somebody happens to search for secret doors up in here, they could get to this area, which is a big treasure room. Be a shame for somebody not to find either one of these 2 possible secret doors and get to this area, because there is a huge supply of gold and other materials back in that area. They're going to really clean up if they find that and get out of here with it. Off to the side of it over here, the goblin barracks. So they got some goblins in this region here. 27, another little latrine. So good to see. They're so nice and neat. And then we eventually get to the slave pens you see over here. And there's a whole lot of these slave pens. There are dozens and dozens of slaves. The book actually tells you exactly what's in each one of them right there. But notice off to the side, this area C leads to the caves. And the caves are filled with what Marquessa calls cavelings. Now, these aren't some kind of unique little cave-like creature. These are her unsuccessful creations. These are tortured individuals who are all mad and disfigured. They give some pretty gory descriptions of what some of them look like. Like in this first area, there's a guy right in here who doesn't even have any upper or lower limbs at all. And there's about 50 of them scattered throughout these caves. There's a bunch of them. They give you little descriptions of what you find in each area. And notice these caves just goes off. Maybe this leads off into the Underdark. Or if you want to, as DM, expand it yourself, you can go right along with that. Back down here at 29 is a witch doctor's quarters. And leading off towards 30 is a room that has a double for Marquessa. So Marquessa, the leader, actually had one successful creation over here. And what she did, she managed to create an individual that looks just like her. If the party has been chasing her and she's escaped through this area and they haven't seen her, her double will be here, and her double will be told to fight. So the party might actually think that they killed this individual when they haven't. Just depends on how it all goes. There's a couple of gnolls that guard the door into this area, and they even tell you that Marquessa's double has a 20% chance of actually telling the party who she is. She'll tell them she was just one of these failed experiments who was tortured and so on down the line. So maybe she'll tell them. They probably won't believe her anyway. They're probably just going to assume it's Marquessa, the slave lord, lying right there, but there is a double for her. So on from there, there's a bodyguard for Marquess in this region. There's actually another one in 33, which is a minotaur. So she got some really tough guards right here. This is her spell room off in 34. And over to 35, these are her private chambers. If she's escaped, she's going to be found in this area right here waiting for the party. Things go bad, she's got a little escape tunnel right here. Down further, there's actually a little trap in this region which could fall out beneath their feet. And if they go on, they'll find this exit tunnel that even leads out from the dungeon area. So she could actually take this path, but any of the slavers coming in and out can do that at any time. Plus any visitors, she's got a little secret passage that leads to it. But over here in 38, this is a trading station for slavers, and 8 drow will be found in this area. Again, the drow weren't seen much at all up until these modules right here, and drow, of course, are known for being slavers. So notice it's a 350-yard walk over here to area 39, and this is the little exit tunnel. There'll be 7 hobgoblin guards in this area who watch who really comes in. They're not too worried about who comes out. They're just making sure nobody comes into this area that's unwanted. So there's all your little key for this area right here. And here's some of the new individuals, characters, creatures, or whatever they introduced. One of them up here called a phantom. They tell you really all it can do is cause fear on individuals. It looks like a 3-dimensional motion picture filming the time of the character's death. Not much to them. These are the boggles that were found over in that area where the floor had a metal grate with that slippery oil, something they secrete. To me, they basically look just like Gollum off Lord of the Rings right there. But they're not all that tough, but notice they have special abilities like spider climb and dimension door. Here's that cloaker. Again, these things will wrap around an individual like a big carpet, bite them and beat them with that spiked tail. So they're a lot of fun. That's what on the first floor was keeping all those slaves mesmerized in that big open area that had the steps and such. But you can see it has all these special abilities there. Here's this other creature called a haunt that'll try and possess somebody in the party. So somebody may be performing an exorcism on somebody in the group there. Now again, when you look at the maps, the blue shaded areas are the tournament areas. So if you want to run this thing as a tournament, just like they did at Gen Con, I think it was number 13 where they ran this one, you got everything you need. Here's the pre-rolled characters, right? You don't just roll something up yourself. You use these individuals right here. So it tells you everything you need about them. There's their armor. Here's anything that they have as far as magic items, weapons, or anything else right there. So they give you everything that you need. So that'd be fun. See how you do in a tournament. And here's how you score it. Depending on how many players get past how many different areas and such, you get a different scoring number. So they tell you how to modify that down here at the bottom for some extra things. And for some of the rooms that were used as tournament play, they even give you a little key right here that shows the exact number of squares and what is standing in each one of them right there. So that is A2, the Secret of the Slaver Stockade. And of course, if you want this now, go right on over to Drive-Thru RPG and purchase this for $4.99. Great module. So I hope you enjoyed this one right here. Till next time, good luck and good gaming.